Well, there's a new poll out amongst Browns fans that says they would actually rather have Baker Mayfield back if Deshaun Watson is suspended for at least 1 year. We'll come back and talk about that coming up on the next Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd, your host from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, the Barbershop on 92.3 The Fan, Garrett Bush at GBush91, Monday through Fridays on YouTube for the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Of course, Saturday mornings, the Barbershop, many other appearances over on 92.3 The Fan. So make sure you are checking that out. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional therapy done securely online, available to people worldwide. And they have a special offer to all our listeners. Get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. The Deshaun Watson stuff, obviously with the Browns, Thursday was an off day, so kind of a quiet day. First off, I think everybody kind of needed it a little bit as we go through here this next phase. New Jersey, former New Jersey Attorney General Peter C. Harvey will be apparently the one anointed to work with the league here in making a decision on Deshaun Watson. If the name sounds familiar, he was involved as far as Hugh Jackson's allegations against the Cleveland Browns when he ruled in favor of the Browns. So obviously Peter Harvey, a little bit familiar with the Cleveland Browns franchise. And for now, that's kind of where we're at. Don't really have much to update as far as that. Again, no player activity yesterday. As the Browns ramp up here, a couple days of practice, then an off day. And of course, the Browns will be on the field next weekend for their first preseason game. Garrett was bringing up here and mentioning, poll running around, some fans here, and it's been running around, Twitter right now for, I guess, about 3 weeks or so, I think, Garrett, right? That sounds about right. And with all of the Deshaun Watson news, apparently now maybe some having some remorse and some missing of one Baker Mayfield. And the poll in favor of would you have rather just kept Baker than to go through the Deshaun Watson mess? Look, if you put it in simplistic forms, would you rather not deal with this daily talk of Deshaun Watson, blah, 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 or would you have Baker Mayfield? Yeah, I guess for most, I can understand where your rationale is. Hall of Fame game last night, seeing so many fans excited about the beginning of a new NFL season. And us Browns fans, we're sitting here with a big incomplete. Like, there's one huge factor in regards to this 2020 season that nobody's got an answer to. And it's been 5 months now. And I truly can understand, fans who are upset. And I don't even know to this point, Garrett, I don't think it's to the point of, the number of games he will eventually play or not play. I think for most, and why a poll goes this way, it's the unknown. We really don't know. And it's going to be difficult today. Obviously, the Browns are going to be in the building, and I'm sure there's going to be a million, questions to Coach Stefanski, to any other Browns personnel who take, well, what's going on? What do we know? And nobody knows anything. And it's August 5th. The Browns open for business September 11th. So we're talking about a month and 6 days. We knew with 99.9% that Deshaun Watson was not going to play in that game. But the fact that we have no idea when you're ever going to see Deshaun Watson, probably what leads to something of this nature. It's a pain. It's a real difficult thing to have to deal with. If everybody who had such high aspirations for this team, bringing in Deshaun Watson to eventually be the quarterback for this team, not knowing when that will begin. And, for, a lot of fans, they look at the black eye the team has taken here, under, basically the media eye and a lot of other fan bases for the move they did make. And maybe think, maybe it was just you were better off with the guy we had. When he does, in fact, play for this team folks are going to see why the move for Deshaun Watson was made. It's just going to take some time.
Here's where I think where you can interpret what was said and how people feel about having Baker Mayfield back over Deshaun Watson. Here's the reality of this situation. Sometimes people don't like being uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is where the success comes, though. You look at the teams and the people. I don't like to bring up the Tom Brady situation, but you look at a situation where you have Tom Brady as he's going in for he's going on. I can What's his name? Other quarterback. Used to play for the New England Patriots under Bill Belichick. I keep wanting to say Ryan Lee. Drew Bledsoe, right? So you get Drew Bledsoe, right? And he goes out and then Tom Brady starts playing. The thing about life is sometimes you can't control what you can't control. And a lot of people feel like if you stay medium, if you stay mediocre, if you just stay in the middle, being in the middle feels better because guess what? You don't have the extreme highs and the lows of when you're uncomfortable. But staying in the middle doesn't get you anywhere. Staying in the middle doesn't get you a championship. It don't get nowhere. And being uncomfortable, staying and being comfortable in being uncomfortable is where people win, is where people are successful, is where champions are created. And people don't see it now, and it kind of sucks because they've been sold on a guy and getting a new quarterback, and now you don't know when that guy's going to be able to play. I get it. I understand that's what it is. But at the end of the day, that's not something you can control. And the thing that I always want to tell and reach out to Browns fans is this, man. Like I'm more of a militant Browns fan. Like I don't take crap from nobody else, man. Like Browns fans are a little too jovial with the national media. Like why would I care what the national media thinks about us? Like you always you say corny jokes. The mistake on the lake, your river's burning. You got a bunch of comedians saying the same 5 jokes. You're not funny, bro. And you keep coming back like we care what you. I don't care what Ryan Clark thinks. You're a Steeler undercover on NFL Network. You care what Dan Orlowski thinks? I'm old enough to remember when you was garbage. You ain't no good. Why do you worry? Don't invest in these outside people. We had somebody like Mike Holmgren come here and take all our money, cash checks, and go on Seattle radio every single week talking about his old life. Man, it's time out for that. The Cleveland Browns went out and did what they thought was best to get people and to get a quarterback. It's not about that whole shaming you. People, like, how are you? You're a grown person. You should never have to. I don't have to explain why I root for the Browns to nobody in Kansas City, Denver, LA. It don't matter. Support your team. When they beat the brakes off of us and we was 1-31, nobody gave a crap what we was doing because we was 1-31. I'm not about to start caring what they think right now.
It's always good to, I'm sorry, it's not always good. It's always popular. It's always easy to pick on the weakling, the unsuccessful one, it's bullying in, any one of its forms. And what's over there? What can I make fun of? What can I get a rise out of people from? And who are we kidding? Cleveland Browns has been away ever since they come back, for God's sake. And obviously, even the way the team left to go to Baltimore, this is how it ended up in this position. It certainly drew an ire, that the Browns made this move. And I think it's, a lot of it has to come from, there were a lot of fans who were attached to Baker. And, rightfully so. Look, this team saw success with Baker Mayfield. It had not seen since the return, 1-31, of course, and doing everything they can to turn that around. The Browns had what they felt was, roster numbers 1 through 53. They thought 2 through 52 was outstanding. They really, really liked this team. And what did they feel? If they could upgrade that number 1, because number 1 should always be the top player on your roster, should always be your quarterback. And if it's not, you're probably not that good of a football team. So they went out and made the move they could to get, a better quarterback, one of the better quarterbacks in the entire league. Let's be honest. If they ran it back with Baker Mayfield, some of these same media pundits would be still getting off them jokes and just be a little bit different, obviously. There's only one way. You want it to stop. It's real simple way to get it to stop. Shut them up. win some games.
Win some games. Come out here and win games, man. That's what
Because
it's about, man.
Yep. It'll be real different. Browns, with Deshaun Watson, start reeling off some games, leading the AFC North, and all of a sudden now teams are going to have to maybe start praising their play again on the field. We're going to get to a little bit more here. How does Coach Stefanski and the coaching staff address this team today before they take the practice field? How do they focus? Because I'm sure finding out the news on day was one thing for this team. We know what's in front of us. And then obviously the news that broke late on Wednesday, now in basically a deep abyss of unknown for that locker room. Jeff Lloyd, Garrett Bush, your latest Locked On Browns. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you are depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor. Ready? Delicious, indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to your new favorite. Cookie dough chunk puffs have a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All of the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories, and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. Run to Built.com to snag a box for you and your family. It will be the perfect treat, or you can find a good hiding spot and just hoard them all for yourself. Like all Built bars, the new cookie dough chunk puff is covered in 1% real chocolate. That means they are healthy and tasty. Chocolate-covered cookie dough with light, fluffy texture, so good. What's great about Built is that all of their bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. You're going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff, whether you need a snack for your workout, a late night treat, or just need to grab a quick bite. Built is the perfect protein bar, and they taste better than a candy bar. Ditch the calories, fat, and sugar. Grab yourself a Built bar. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15.
Welcome back to the Locked On Brown podcast. We back doing our thing. G Bush, follow at GBush91. Jeff Lloyd, follow at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. And continue to support us on YouTube. We're close to 2,500. We're going to continue. Let's go ahead and knock that out of the park. And continue to keep rocking and rolling with us. Make sure you hit those 5-star reviews wherever you download your podcast. And make sure you hit that notification bell. We'll be dropping content all over the place. I'll be in training camp actually tomorrow. So it'll be great to get back on Monday and let you guys know what I saw some firsthand. I'll be in training camp this week, and I'll be in training camp both on Saturday and Sunday next week. So we'll have a lot of great stuff to talk about. Firsthand views of what's going on at camp, and we'll be able to talk about that with me and Jeff. So make sure you don't want to miss that. Make sure you hit that notification bell and subscribe to the channel. So we talked a little bit about, the polls, stating that people still, wanted Baker Mayfield or still have an affinity for Baker Mayfield, given the fact that Deshaun Watson is going to miss a year or potentially miss a year in indefinite suspension. So I always look at it like this, when you're dealing with a team, one of the things that you have to do is keep the pulse of the team, make sure the morale of the team is where it is, and the part about being a coach is not just the X's and O's, it's how you manage the locker room, how you manage personalities, how you go about your messaging. And so for me, we ask in this segment, what is exactly that you're going to see from Kevin Stefanski, and what is Kevin Stefanski saying to his troops right now? And I think he's just echoing it. I think one word, if you had to give me one word or one phrase, it would be "do your job," right? There's certain things that doesn't affect you. Just because Deshaun Watson ain't here, no matter who's at quarterback, Myles Garrett is still expected to rush the passers with Jadeveon Clowney. Just because Deshaun Watson, you ain't got a Deshaun Watson date, does not mean Joe Bitonio and his boys up front ain't supposed to be coming off the ball, firing out, being aggressive, right? It means that, receivers, if the ball's thrown to you, catch it. Defensive backs cover somebody, and linebackers, let's get downhill and have a party at the football. A lot of times we look at these overarching things, but we forget when you're in that locker room, it is very microscopic. The defensive line coach is coaching D-line. He ain't worried about no quarterbacks. They are worried about getting better individually across the board, trying to get guys ready. It's some guys like Greedy Williams that are in a contract year. is some guys that are trying to play themselves into a spot, right? Trying to figure out where I could get some playing time. So, the Cleveland Browns objective from group to group, this position group and defensive offense does not change. And he's basically I guarantee they're reiterating that to these guys to let them know the standard is the standard. You do your job and we'll worry about the rest when the chips fall.
I think if you're Coach Stefanski, the way you've got to approach this is, you know what, we just got to assume, as for right now, and basically what the status of it is, there's no other way to look at this other than let's not worry about Deshaun. We can't. We cannot worry about Deshaun Watson right now because every moment, every second, we sit here pondering, talking, whether it's someone saying they made a decision and now, you want to, get aggravated, worked up about the fact that decision isn't good enough. And basically we're going to start this process again. It's every second, every minute that you are not focusing on being the best football team you can possibly be. Control the controllable. The Browns have zero control over the Deshaun Watson situation. So sitting here pontificating about it, discussing it, wondering what's going on, there's nothing you can do about it. 100% out of their control. This team needs to focus. This team needs to get ready. Like I said, 30-something days or not, that calendar is going to turn to September 11th, and there's going to be a game to play in Carolina. And this team, regardless of who the quarterback is, whether it's Jacoby Brissett or Deshaun Watson, Carolina Panthers are an inferior football team. You should go out there and be able to get the job done. And the move for Deshaun Watson, yes, they really, really thought they could make a huge upgrade at the quarterback position. But the only reason you did that is because you have players like Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. You have players like Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, John Johnson III, Grant Delpit. The list goes on and on. You have players like Joe Bitonio, Wyatt Teller. You have players like Nick Chubb. You have players like Kareem Hunt. You have players like Amari Cooper. You have players like David Njoku. This roster is deep, spread out. Almost every positional group, barring defensive tackle, has playmakers, has proven NFL commodities. The thought process in regards to Deshaun Watson's eligibility, it just absolutely needs to stop. No more. And I mean, yes, and it makes for an awkward scenario because, of course, Deshaun, for now, is still in the locker room. But even though he's there, he almost has to be treated like he's not, because every second that is spent on this is time that is spent away from the task at hand. And Garrett and I have been talking about this a ton lately. Task at hand. The Browns could put every single resource they have, and it is not going to change one thing in regards to Deshaun Watson one way or the other. So what do you do? And see, I'm sure there's guys in that locker room who are friends with Deshaun Watson, and they are aggravated for their friend. They are aggravated for themselves that they don't have their quarterback. Use it as fuel. Turn it into what you need to do to, and, it's crazy to say, well, if Myles Garrett can play a little better. Well, you want to know what? One thing we've never seen with Myles Garrett, we've never seen him pissed off. Well, actually, we did once. We've never seen him pissed off, agitated, aggravated. But that's the mentality this team has to take. And, it's not about, the games that Deshaun Watson's going to miss. It's about the fact that they're getting, and this is the part for me, and it is not about time missed for Deshaun Watson one way or another. It's the fact that it's about 30 days away from week 1, and this team has no idea when their quarterback is going to be eligible to play. That is a terrible situation to be in. The NFL handled this piss poorly to this point. And if you're the Browns, get aggravated, be ticked off, but there's nothing you can do about it. So what do? Focus on making sure the product on the field, as it's currently, built, is the best possible product it can be.
I agree. Sometimes it seems a little reductionist. But to be honest with you, man, the message is, we got all these Pro Bowlers in here, man. We got all these Pro Bowlers in here. And I get it. They want us to have Deshaun Watson, and he's a big part of what we want to do. But at the end of the day, we're not waiting on no other man to come out here and judge our destiny. We're not about to let nobody else tell us that we about to do this and you guys can win 5 games and all that other nonsense and jargon. Listen, man, the great thing about fans is this: they're fans. They have no control over what you're talking about. They have no control over how you go tackle. They have no control. That's why football is football. It don't matter your religion. It don't matter your race. You can have a bunch of money. You can have privilege. You can have power. You can have all of that. But when you get between them lines, you can still get your ass kicked. That's you can still get blown out. You can get physically dominated, and that's the best thing about football. All that other stuff that you write, that's outside of here, including what me and Jeff say. That's outside of the box. It matters what goes on between those white lines.
You got to be ready to go, because if this team takes this field and starts getting, boat raced by lesser opponents, I don't know what it does for the future of this franchise the way it is currently built. And there is way too much talent in that room. Deshaun Watson or not, there's way too much talent in that room for this team to not go out and succeed. We're going to get to a little bit more here. We're going to talk about maybe what some realistic expectations could be for 2022 if, in fact, Deshaun Watson ends up not a part of it. Garrett Bush, Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. Everybody here who's a listener knows, obviously my wife and I, we've been through a lot here the last few years, some significant loss. And having each other to talk to is great, but maybe every now and then the possibility of thinking about seeking out a professional to speak to, it's not the worst idea, and it's certainly something that should never be poo-pooed. Life is full of twists and turns, and it's important to show up for yourself through it all. BetterHelp Online Therapy will assess your needs and can match you with your own licensed professional in less than 48 hours. Look, life is difficult. The last 2.5 years in this world has been extremely difficult. People basically confined to their homes. If you think you need somebody to talk to, it's okay to say you're not okay, and maybe to look to get the assistance you need. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional therapy done securely, online, available to people worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send a message to your therapist. You can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you don't have to be on camera if you don't want to. Getting therapy every week is as easy as a few clicks away on your laptop or your phone. With therapy, it can take a few tries to find the right fit for you. BetterHelp makes it easy and free to chat with therapists if needed. It's more affordable, and traditional offline therapy and financial aid is in fact available. BetterHelp is a great way to invest in yourself. Just some of the thoughts here, some of the reviews. She is excellent. It's just me right now, not dealing with my grief. She prepared for having times like this. She is excellent. I don't know where I would be without her. So if you're ready to, and you think you need to, you can go ahead and check out BetterHelp. And they have a great special offer for all our listeners. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's 10% off your first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/lockedon.
Welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast. G. Bush, Jeff Lloyd. We've been talking about the impact of the decision with Deshaun Watson. First segment, we talked about exactly why fans are kind of clamoring, or would they go back. Polling is showing that people still got a fix for Baker Mayfield, especially if Deshaun Watson is out a year. We talked in the second, in our second segment, that what is Kevin Stefanski? What is the messaging to the locker room? What do they think they have to do to get these guys motivated and continue to stay focused on the 2022 season? And now we talk about the wins and losses. If you're gonna look at it, every time we look at the preseason rankings and we look at everything before the season starts, we figure out where everybody is supposed to be and what people think is going to be where the Browns will finish. And what is the percent chance that you give the Cleveland Browns for making the playoffs? So when I look at that question, I take into context what the team is. I also have to take into context what other teams have. I'm looking at a thing where if you look at Baker Mayfield in the year that he played well, he didn't particularly play in 2022. In 2020, he played well the last 8 or 9 games. The first part of the season was not very good. He was not as good as he was. There were some games in there where he struggled against the Raiders. There was a win game. He struggled against the Texans. The weather was inclement that game. He struggled even a little bit with the Jets, which was the second part of the season. But he had a nice, solid 9 games. And in those 9 games, what did he do well? In those 9 games, he delivered the football. He mixed it up. They ran the ball well. They ran play action, and Kevin Stefanski was on his job doing his thing, mixing it up. Then 2021 happens, and you get a situation where Baker's hurt, and we couldn't complete passes. We couldn't dial up any passes, and even the gimme passes and the gimme routes we couldn't hit just because it was just like it was squeamish. The accuracy wasn't there, the pocket presence wasn't there. We were taking a lot of sacks, and then the whole Odell Beckham Jr. thing happened, and then the thing eventually unraveled on us. But if you can get some of the play that you got in the second part of 2020, let's be clear, Jacoby Brissett's not a bum. I think people don't realize that Jacoby Brissett is a solid backup. He's a top tier backup, as a matter of fact. Like, let's not act like he can't come in and spot shadow and give you 6 to 8 games and have some decent numbers, poppy numbers, and come in here and do their thing. I think if you get Jacoby Brissett comfortable and you got the running game, you got a couple things bounce your way. Kevin Stefanski is remotivated, refocused, and the defense is a top 3 to 5 defense. You got a 25, maybe 30% chance of making the playoffs. Now, people say that's low, but 25 or 30 is better than having with Josh Rosen or Case Keenum or whatever the case is behind him, having a 10% chance. So I think it's relatively good, a decent chance given the fact that how dynamic Deshaun Watson is. So I would say about 30%.
The thing, and this is kind of where it gets tricky, obviously. This roster is extremely talented, and basically almost every room there is some top tier talent. The defensive tackle room, we'll see how the young kids shake out there. So when you have a roster that is pretty much good everywhere, and if you go with the theory of everybody just do what you can control and do your job. Well, we know we've got at least 2,500 yards rushing minimum out of that room. Amari Cooper, and maybe these output will drop a tad, Jacoby Brissett, as opposed to with Deshaun Watson. But Amari Cooper, you're talking 70 plus thousand, 7 touchdowns. It's pretty much what he's done in the NFL every year up until this point. David Njoku, with more opportunities, thinking a little more spike in production. We know what this offensive line is capable of. We certainly know the aspirations and the talent level of this defense. Can it all come together and get it done? But there comes a point where, a backup quarterback is a backup quarterback for a reason. You can go out, you can have a nice 6 to 8 game stretch. And then once people start to see Jacoby Brissett within this Browns offense, there's more film to watch. You can start to see he can't make that throw. He won't make that throw. He won't even attempt that throw. And you start to notice those types of things, which give you playing against him the advantage of knowing what he can do, what he can't do, what he won't even try to do, and that's how you end up being basically a marginal starting quarterback, backup quarterback in this league. Now it would take perfection. I mean, I'm not saying it would to have a long run in the playoffs. It would take pretty damn near close to perfection week in, week out from this team, because you're going to need every positional room to go out there and to give the best that they have. It's certainly possible that you can expect the best out of these guys. They're all dedicated. What we all love about this roster is it doesn't seem to be like there's any cracks as far as questionable personalities as far as where they are with the game. Several people have left that locker room who maybe we did have some questions about what the game meant to them as opposed to, what they were getting from the game, so to speak. I would say it's still pretty high. We have no idea what the Baltimore Ravens really are right now. That whole Lamar Jackson situation certainly, leaves you wondering about where that team can go. Pittsburgh, the reviews out of camp don't seem that great at the quarterback position. They do not. So you certainly have your thoughts there. Look, we know the Bengals are tough. There are some really, really good teams on this Browns schedule. But if the defense can play well and they can offensively, they can do the things that we know they do well, quarterback notwithstanding, this team runs the ball and runs it extremely well. But there's going to come times, weeks, games where you're going to have to throw it, to make something happen, to win some ball games. Percentage-wise, I'd go a little probably a little higher than Garrett. I have a very, very high faith in this defense. I think I have a lot of faith in Coach Stefanski now that he doesn't have these personalities on the offensive side of the ball that he has to worry about. He can just go out, call plays, and they're going to get executed as he wants. There's going to be no chatter in the 20-second in between plays. It's going to be huddle it up and let's go get it done here. But without the possibility of Deshaun Watson for a full year, it certainly dampers expectations of maybe how far this team can go. And again, for me, just the final of it, it's a really terrible situation to put this franchise in. They've had this player for 5 years right now, for 5 months now. They should have an answer on when he is able to play football again.
Yeah, I'll look at it and say, I think one thing that we've all noticed is we're disillusioned just with the NFL in general. A lot of people is just disillusioned with the whole thing. Like I don't care about all of the different things that they do. Like, don't be flying no jets overhead and all the NFL care stuff. Stop shooting them promos and commercials. We know you don't care. Like, it's just cheesy and corny at this point. I don't want to hear Roger Goodell. I don't want to see him. Why, if you are going to be a hired hitman for the owners, stay on that side and just don't show your face. But you trying to act like this is one happy partnership. No, it's not, man. You don't care about the situation. The best thing y'all can do is shut up and play the games, and that's what we're ready for.
Pretty much. And, look, for the Browns, you got to get back to work today. I understand this sitting in limbo. It's a pain. But either way, these days are going by, and these games are going to start, and they're going to matter. And this team has got to be ready to go because nobody in that locker room is going to get a pass for their performance because Deshaun Watson played or didn't play. You're all going to be judged based on what you did each and every week. And, at the end of the day, you signed a contract to play football for the Browns. It wasn't about whether or not you're playing football for the Browns with Deshaun Watson, a quarterback. You all got jobs to do. Ain't no time for whining. Ain't no time for moaning. Got to go out there. Got to get the job done. He is Garrett Bush, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Monday through Friday, 11 to 1 on YouTube Live. Make sure you're checking it out. You can always check it after the fact. The Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show Twitter page obviously will always, hit you with 4, 5, 6 highlights of every episode every day. So make sure you're checking all of that out. The Barbershop, 92.3 The Fan. Garrett in there every Saturday morning. Of course, Garrett over at training camp tomorrow. So keep your eyes out for that, of course, at GBush91. Make sure you're following personally. Lloyd at Jeff_L_Lloyd. Show itself, Locked On Browns, follow back account. DMs are open. Show for everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen. We could not be more appreciative, whether it's your favorite podcast platform or, of course, now on YouTube. Make sure you're following, subscribe to the show, 5-star ratings, written reviews, all that stuff. Closing in on 2,500 followers. Subscribers. Appreciate you all taking the ride along with us over on YouTube. All that being said, this has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.